All right, let's do this. All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you so very much for joining me today on this lovely afternoon. And for those on the replay, I'm so glad that you're here as well so that we can connect through all the different virtual options. I am Wendy. I am the founder of Family in Focus, and we're going to be diving right into our conversation today, which means that I need to hit my ba ba ba. Oh, let me see. I think this is the one. And share and enter full screen mode. Okay, cool. Now you should be able to see everything. So we're going to dive right in. I am going to invite you along the way. So just introducing you to the chat box where you can put in comments, ahas, questions. I will be bringing things up at the very end. I'll be tying it back in together. So I'd love to know where you checking in from today. Maybe we can introduce ourselves to the chat box a while. Where are you coming in from today? We can get to know each other. I'm here in, hey, you're my neighbor. So you're in Virginia Beach. I'm here in Chesapeake, Virginia. And hey, we get to enjoy that weather together. All right, so let's dive right on in. So, what to expect today? We're really going to be outlining so much about our topic, which is how to raise healthy eaters without repeating the shame that you grew up with. I do invite you to share, to put comments in the chat box. You're going to get a lot of information, a lot of a taste of what it is that you will experience in Family in Focus, the types of conversations that we have within the program. And even if you're not ready to join Family in Focus, stay anyway. And as I've already extended the invitation, stay to the end for those that are here live for direct conversation as well. So this class is for you if you are worried about your kids' eating habits. If you've struggled with your own eating habits or weight or body image, you know the pain of shame about your body, about your eating habits, and you want to make a difference for your own children, but you're not really receiving the type of support that you find would be helpful. And this class is for you if relationships are really important to you. You're also in the right place if you're done fighting over what's healthy in your home, or perhaps with co-parents, with additional family members. You're in the right place if you don't want to teach your children how to diet. If you want your children to grow, you're in the right place. And also, if you know that something needs to change in order to be able to make that happen in a helpful way and without harming. So, after this class, you are going to be clear on what's actually going on behind your children's eating habits, why you're not seeing change from all the traditional approaches with those healthy habits tip sheets, with all the information that's being dispensed willy-nilly online, as well as in the doctor's office. And then also get really clear on the three simple steps that will completely shift all of this generational BS. I'm keeping it clean today, but you know what I really think about it, about the way that we've just been taught and repeated over and over again in our culture through the generations, and how you can completely change your family's relationships. So, for introductions, hi, I'm Wendy, and I am Wendy Schofer, MD. I am a pediatrician now. Well, let's be honest here. So, I completed my training back in 2024. So, it's been 21 years now of active practice as a pediatrician. I am a mom of two children who are definitely now adults and definitely bigger than me. And they will also let you know how I am not the guru who has done it all right. In fact, I have learned so much through my practice, through my parenting, and through my own experiences of what doesn't work and creating shifts, learning growing and changing over time. And so, what I've now done is really specialized in family emotional health. And I'm going to say it, doggone it, growth, how we want our families to grow. And I've worked with over 100 families within the specialized practice of family and focus to become healthier from the inside out. So we're going to be here for about an hour, give or take. It depends on the time frame of our discussion at the end. I welcome you to use the chat box for your questions. Give context, please. Like, let me know where we are in the discussion because I will circle back to answer those questions at the end. And I just want to know what part of the conversation was kind of prompting the question. And I will definitely answer everything at the end. There will be a replay available for a few days. And then I will also be sharing details about how to work with me within Family and Focus at the end of the class. So, a couple of things that I have really learned from parents who work with me within Family and Focus and parents who participate within the online community and those that participate in classes just like this. You want you want to just know that your kids are going to be healthy. You're looking for that reassurance. And you also want to stop feeling like the bad cop about all the different ways that you were trying to help them. You want more peace, calm, and a plan that actually works, not just somebody's prescription of saying, eat less, move more, and go figure it out on your own. You want fewer meltdowns. You want to feel in control without having to control and micromanage everything about your children's activities. You want to raise your children without the shame you experienced about your eating habits, about your food choices, and about your body growing up. You want your children to feel confident in their bodies and along the way to not see disordered eating. You want your kids to develop healthy relationships with their food, with their own bodies, and right along with that, just as important, if not even more important, to develop healthy relationships with you, to maintain those and to grow them. So, yeah, you're doing a lot. There's a lot on the plates for parents right now. Keeping an eye on portions in the pantry and how much are they exercising? How much protein are they eating? How much time are they taking, maybe staring in the mirror, taking in the shower? And then also doing a lot of the research and doing a lot of deep dives into the tips that are online, remarkably while trying to keep your kids offline. Isn't the irony there? And you're worried about going down the same path that you've been on. Fear of different metabolic diagnoses, either ones that already are there or ones that you're concerned about developing. Also, you're worried about, am I going to seed an eating disorder if I'm coming in and trying to change the way that my kids eat? Also asking, is it too late to make changes? And am I just choosing between either having another food fight again tonight or just giving in to what it is that my child wants? And I'm going to just answer these really quickly, okay? It is not too late. It is not too late to make changes for you as well as for your children, no matter what age they are. And there is something else besides just choosing between food fight and giving in. And that's what we're really going to be exploring here. Because right now, there's far too much of this black or white. It's either this or that, both of which are painful options. And so that's what we're going to be exploring. Because otherwise, when we're in that black and white, kind of world, going back and forth between it's either this bad, option or that bad option, it just is so much friction. And parents keep telling me I don't want to be the food police anymore. Why does it always have to be a fight? Oh, the questions that come up. I'm just exhausted, utterly exhausted. Eat less, move more does not work for us. And I feel like I'm failing my kids. But also, I don't want to shame my children and their bodies. So there's so much information about there about how we're supposed to be raising our families, how we're supposed to be changing and controlling and micromanaging. And I mean, let's just admit it, they call it weight management all the time. Well, there's a simple reason why these tactics don't work. What they're all focusing on is trying to change your child, either their eating habits, perhaps their weight, perhaps their growth. And meanwhile, we're also trying to avoid the pain that we've experienced along the way around our own bodies and eating habits and weight and growth. So it makes sense. We're trying very hard to create these changes and to avoid that pain. But the thing is, all this guidance, everyone is trying to tell you how to change habits and the patterns of, what it is that we're seeing with our children and their eating habits in particular, without understanding why those habits are there in the first place. If we just say you got to just clear out the pantry, we just come in and say you just got to stop eating these foods. Well, we're not actually understanding why it is that we actually are turning to those foods in the first place. We can't change what we don't understand. And the truth that I've learned over and over again about kids' behaviors is that while we want to create healthy habits, habits are behaviors, things that we do over and over again, but our behaviors are there because they work for us. We do them on repeat because somehow, in some way that we may not even understand yet, it works. It totally works. We feel good. It's more convenient. It's something that is just part of our routine. Well, that's for us and for our kids. And until we understand how it's working for us right now, why we do what we do, well, we can't really effectively change it until we get there. And sadly, our parents didn't know that. I mean, to be honest with you, there's so much that wasn't a part of the discussion as we were growing up because, with a lot of us, we were growing up in the, crazy skinny culture, anti-fat diet, which all is coming back again. It's crazy how this skinny culture is coming back again. But we kept on thinking that we needed to control our bodies, control what it is that we're doing. And that's what our parents were raising us with. It wasn't any fault of theirs. It's just that's what culture has been doing. Society has been saying for years that more control is the answer. Well, guess what? It's not working. It's not working. Because they just like whisper in the ear. They're like, "Well, dude, you just got to change how you serve your food, how you feed your kids. Just serve more nutritious meals." Clearly, that person does not live with your children. Don't live with my children because they don't like what it is that's being served. And yet, the kids won't stay out of the pantry. Perhaps you have picky eaters in your home, where maybe they'll kind of eat something this week, but not next month. And then you're like, has it just completely evaporated, disappeared from the menu of options that they will eat? Perhaps you've received the prescriptions from the physician, and I completely acknowledge this was a part of my practice where I say, I know how we can address these concerns about growth, about weight, around eating habits. This is how much you eat. These are the portions. These are the foods. This is how much you move, how much of a sweat to get for how many minutes per day. And I gave out those prescriptions to eat less and move more because They were evidence-based, but not working. They were not working because it was me coming in and telling families, this is what you've got to do to change. And unfortunately, what happens is shame just sneaks into the conversation. Shame has been used for generations because it's such a powerful social tool to be able to get us to kind of stay in alignment in order to follow the rules of whatever it is, a family, an institution of society. It keeps people in line. I think about how many times I've been through with military, my military career and military practice, how often shame was used in order to be able to keep us in line within the military. But the thing is that shame is awful. It can keep in line, it can control, but it's awful to help people learn and grow. Because when we feel shame, we withdraw, we disconnect, and we're kind of being stunted in ways. Well, a lot of us grew up with shame in the environment around our bodies, around our food choices, around discussions about weight. That isn't helpful. And you know that. You know that because you've experienced that and you want to do something different. Well, recognizing that those healthy habits, guidelines, and plans aren't something that we can just pull off the shelf and apply to each and every family because they don't fit. Whether it's foods that they won't eat, meaning foods that your children are just like not digging, perhaps exercise that they won't do. Maybe I've heard this so many times, like I would prescribe so much activity for families. And then they're like coming back and telling me 3 to 6 months later, um, that's great. I don't like to exercise. Now I have to fight my kids to try to get them to go out and exercise. It was just a recipe for disaster. And it's just fights that you don't want to have anymore. These approaches never worked for you either. How many of us have been told, you just got to change it? You just got to do more, or you have to eat less. Well, it's really hard to apply because there's a reason why we eat and move the way that we do. And if we don't get to the heart of that, if we don't get to understanding why we do what it is that we do in the first place without all the judgment, without all the shame about there's something wrong with me that I do it this way, if we don't get to the heart of it, we will never create real lasting change, also known as healthy relationships. So the solution, it's 4 simple words. I know you're like, hold on a minute, what's going on here? It is truly that easy. And these 4 words are really the foundation for Family and Focus. And with Family Focus, it's a family health program that's starting with the foundation of understanding of the emotions behind everything that we're doing, the eating, the friction that we're experiencing, the stress that we're experiencing, and also what we're trying to change in our homes. Emotional health creates the foundation for habits, for relationships, and health. And this is the missing link that if we don't understand emotions, if we don't get really curious about emotional health, we're just banging our heads on walls once again and repeating cycles that aren't effective. We have to understand this in order to create change and also to understand what's going on with our motivation in the first place. So those 4 simple words, all feelings are welcome, which is also on my t-shirt once again today. I am a walking billboard for all feelings are welcome. What do you think of when you hear that? When you hear all feelings are welcome, does it feel like it's been a little switcheroo there? Because I'm going to make the case here where it's not. All feelings are welcome is really kind of the invitation to say, let's explore. Let's understand a little bit more about what's going on. So many of us were raised with an approach that it's like, yeah, emotions are cool, but there's a time and a place. I heard that all the time. There's a time and a place for emotions. And it was never now and it was never here. And that got even more pronounced as I went through my education. And so in medical school, oh, sweet heavens, never show your emotions. In the military, please, we don't do that. And so go figure that it was something that was very hard for me as I was trying to teach and have these conversations with my own children about emotions. But we're going to talk about what that possibility is with really exploring emotions in our families, in our health. At the heart of it, it's because emotions are behind all of our behaviors. So just thinking about why it is that we do what we do, it's because of emotions that are either kind of like what we're feeling and we want more of that, and so it leads us to do an action. So I'm just thinking about like when you anticipate, when you're excited about something, well, it's pretty darn likely that you're going to go and do it, right? Well, what happens when you dread something? Kind of puts on the brakes. Well, what about when you're feeling something that you're just over feeling it? You're just, I'm done. How often exhaustion, frustration, irritation leads us to do things to just feel better, to just stop feeling that for a while. I acknowledge I would come home from work exhausted and head right to the pantry. Last I checked, tortilla chips do not fix exhaustion. And yet I would feel a little bit better. This has nothing to do with blood sugar. This has nothing to do with me being hungry. It's just that I was doing something, eating, in order to not focus on my exhaustion at the time. When we understand the emotions behind the behaviors, we understand so much more about why seemingly unhealthy things like hitting the bag of tortilla chips on the regular, why that feels really, really good. Well, because I wasn't focusing on my exhaustion or irritation or whatever it was at that time. Feels really good. But also, it's why it's uncomfortable to change. Let's quick understand that a little bit. So, with when we change, we have to do something that's different. I mean, that's the definition of changing. But the thing is that we, it is uncomfortable. There is some level of discomfort just by switching the gears. And so we tend to do the same things over and over again because they are practiced. Whether they work for us or not, it's just on a cycle. That's why we call it a habit. It's repeated. And so it takes energy to be able to switch that gear. And these are the things that if we understand more about emotions, especially as we're talking about shame, shame never made anyone healthier. We use it like some kind of surgical, precision type of tool, but it doesn't work that way. It doesn't help anyone get healthier because it's actually creating disconnection. So, why haven't we been focusing on emotions? Why hasn't this been a part of the conversation? Well, emotions are uncomfortable, but that's only because we haven't been practicing having these conversations. We haven't been practicing actually sitting with our feelings. Nobody ever taught me, hey, this is what it's like to sit with your feelings, until I was really getting into this work just within the last decade. And so before that, it was really uncomfortable. I didn't have the practice. And we've been taught that being uncomfortable means that something is wrong. So go figure, we don't do it. Another reason why we haven't explored with emotions is because food is seemingly a much easier thing to change. We just like go tweak the food. We have prescriptions for change, prescriptions for what we need to eat. But the expert guidance for portions and for the foods aren't actually changing how we eat. And just think about this. We have these prescriptions all the time. We have so many tip sheets and so much guidance. Why is it not working? Well, because we're not actually understanding the emotions behind why we eat in the first place. And a lot of people will say it. Let's just call it out. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this emotional stuff. Well, it's funny, as I've done presentations with physicians over the last several years about the role of emotional health in pediatric growth and weight and eating habits. I always hear at the end of the presentation, there's this one doctor who will put their hand up very bravely and say, "This is fabulous." And yet, I don't have time for this, meaning to have the conversations about emotions, to understand them in the office. And I have been on the case of addressing that early on and really making the case of how we actually save time and heartache with creating emotional connection. It's not about talking about emotions, it's about connecting with each other on an emotional level. Yes, it takes some practice because for the vast majority of us, this is brand new. This is absolutely brand new. And yet, it really helps create the connection and to really understand what's really going on. And then for a lot of folks that just say, hey, it's not the right time. It's not the right time for me to explore emotions right now. I just want to focus on portions and food and weight. And so I invite them to just stop, write down when it will be the right time. When's the right time to have the conversation about emotions and their role in family habits, growth, and relationships. And I invite you to do that as well. If you're like, yeah, this isn't the right time, cool. When will it be the right time? Now, another thing is that I hear my insurance should cover this because, again, we've taken so much of the conversation about weight and food and eating habits into the medical office. And so it's like, hey, this should be covered. Well, we're going to leave a whole bunch of things in the medical office. So, number one is diets that are masquerading as weight management. How often it's sneaking in, and that whole eat less, move more is really just a diet in disguise. The other things we're going to leave the 20-minute time caps. Like, this is all the time we have for today, and I'll see you in 3 to 6 months because that's the next time that you get to come back in to see the doctor. And there's only one person at a time, so do not talk to me about all the family stuff. And we can only address one, okay, maybe two if I'm feeling really good, um, issue per appointment. There's a lot of weight stigma that is still baked in within medical evaluations from being weighed as soon as we're walking in the door, talking about weight all the time, how it comes up in conversations because we just haven't had all the training. When I say we, I am saying from the medical perspective as physicians, we still have a lot to learn and grow about having compassionate, sensitive conversations. And we can talk a whole lot more about the work that I'm doing with the next generation of doctors here at the Eastern Virginia Medical School about addressing weight stigma and having those conversations. Oh, I look forward to geeking out with you. We also leave in the medical office about, how much there's a focus on numbers and measurements to be able to say, hey, you're at a healthy size or weight, or this is what healthy looks like for you, what this ideal weight is. We also leave all the paperwork and authorizations and copay and are you in network? Are you not? Covered benefits, deductibles. Oh my gosh. But also documentation in the medical record about everything, about even saying, well, is this diagnostic or not? That's not what we're doing here in Family in Focus. Also, noticing how often you leave the medical office with more questions, stress, uncertainty, and an ever growing list, that to do list of things you need to do to follow up. the prescriptions and fixes, and then also how often we go in and then hear, yeah, that's normal, or there's nothing to do right now. Just keep doing what you're doing. And you're like, I came in with a concern, but I don't feel that I'm getting anywhere. What sounds familiar to you? These are the challenges that we're facing right now when we're medicalizing so much about weight and eating habits and growth and the relationships that we have with our food and our body. And so instead, in Family and Focus, what we're really creating here is family focused discussions. So I work, my goodness, primarily, it's about 95% of the time with parents directly. Because, by the way, you have a very key role in the health of the entire family. Also, addressing your stress, your concerns, your worries. When we do that, that stress relief ripples throughout the entire family. We focus on connecting with the emotions behind all of our habits as we're talking about eating habits and movement and use of electronics and sleep and family dynamics and communication. Okay, those are all different habits and behaviors. Understanding more about the emotions behind it so that you'll experience stress relief. And then this is not one size fits all, just take the plan off the shelf. It's about focusing on your unique struggles with both flexibility and tailoring for what it is that you're facing right now. So you will experience connection with yourself, with your loved ones, with your body, with your food, and better relationships across the board, and actual growth to create change without harm. So let's look at those three things that really are critical and that you can start using right away to start changing eating habits without harm. Let's just switch that word, without shame, because we know what it's like with growing up with shame. It doesn't work. So let's look about how to create those changes without harm. Step one, let's do it. Let's do it. Just take a moment. And I invite you to just set it down for a moment, maybe even close your eyes. Just pause, take a breath, and exhale. Oh, that felt delicious. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to invite you as well. Yeah. Here's the thing, the pausing, breathing, interrupting the cycle, it slows down your nervous system. A pause buys time and perspective. And this is why the Family and Focus newsletter is called the exhale. It's the pause, to breathe and set our own nervous system. It's the most important step of all. And it's honestly the one that's been practiced the least because we think we just need to get moving. We just have to get all these things done and then we can relax. Then we can exhale. Then we can breathe. No, we're going to practice. We're going to focus on this because this is the part that our parents didn't know. Okay, let me just simmer down for a moment. Let me just take a moment to collect all this information and also to take care of myself. They didn't know that. They just thought that they had to control and to be able to keep things moving. Enjoy a breath and another. I love my snow globe. All right. So, you know how you shake it all up, and this one has all the glitter all over the place. And I think about that as my beautiful life, which I'm just going to picture it's glitter that's flurrying all over the place when I feel like I'm about to lose my mind. But all the beautiful things, and you can't see. Oh, let's go through this again. Oh, hold on. We're going to do this. There you go. You can't really see Philadelphia behind all of that glitter. You can't see, oh, there he is, Rocky in front of the art museum. But what's happening when we take that pause and we take that exhale. This is where we're letting all the flurry, all the frenzy, all the things that are going on just kind of settle. This is actually practicing regulation in real time. So we talk about emotional regulation. It's that pause to let the dust, the glitter, the chaos, all the things swirling around just settle, to offer a clearer vision of where you want to go next. And how often parents are like, I don't want to do nothing. How often we think that a pause, an exhale, or breathing is doing nothing. This is the lie that we've just been sold in our productivity focused go, go, go society. And I got the real taste that this is not a universal truth in two examples. So, one is the pleasure of experiencing those early days of COVID with three teens suddenly on lockdown in my house. And there was stone cold nothing I could do to change that situation. All I could do was pause and just be there with my kids, which a lot of it was being there, sitting there, and just breathing with them. And they wanted action. They wanted me to say something. And they often looked at me and they're like, aren't you going to say something? I'm like, there's nothing for me to say. There's nothing else for me to do, but we are here together. We are here together. This sucks. And we are here together. And suddenly we were connecting in heartfelt ways through, honesty, vulnerability, and yeah, doing the most powerful thing, breathing together, but connecting. And another way is really looking at this example of the power of slowing down. So these are the words of a mom that worked with me in the very early days of the first Family and Focus program. And then she came back to work with me again about 2.5 years later. And she reported how, she had been working through a resurgence of disordered eating with her daughter. And what she found is that this work, primarily with taking that pause and the breath and taking care of herself, regulating her own emotions because she was going through the whole roller coaster as her daughter was facing an eating disorder. And yet she found that using these tools, starting off with the breath and the pause, they've made all the difference for her to be able to navigate with her daughter. And so, again, why this works is settling our own nervous system. So, activating that parasympathetic nervous system. It's the brakes. It's the brakes for our nervous system. Helps us to be grounded for whatever it is that our kids are experiencing. Because I got to tell you, they're going to be on a big old roller coaster, all the emotions, all the things. And yet, whew, how can we support ourselves to be there with them? And kind of like that glitter settling, how can we clear our heads, our minds, clear our hearts, and then be able to find the clear path for the next step to take? So, one more example is just sharing about the power of slowing down to break cycles. This was feedback that I received from the Emotions Matter series that I did last year. And one of the participants said, where were you 25 years ago when I was growing up? My parents could have used this. I had so much body hatred thrown at me from parents and my doc in the name of health. Again, everyone's thinking that if I can just get this other person to change, things will be so much better. Now we need to slow down, actually connect with what's going on. So the second step, so number one, pause, take that breath, exhale. Number two, get curious about patterns. You're like, what? What are we seeing here? Curiosity is the most powerful emotion. It's asking, what else is there? What is possible? How can I? What's really going on? All these open-ended questions and looking for patterns and opportunities. So, with a lot of the patterns, we think about patterns of colors and shapes and, kind of how things are being repeated physically. But the thing is that there's also patterns that are deeper beyond the surface. And so when we get curious, we can start looking at, well, let's start looking at the pattern of what what are the repeated responses or reactions that happen? Maybe when I experience this emotion, what do I notice happens? Or taking it another way, when I notice that I've eaten in a certain way, what else was going on? So if I'm eating the tortilla chips, going to the pantry right away after work, what do I notice about that? Let me get curious. Oh, hold on. I came home and I was really exhausted and I found my way to the pantry. So getting curious, looking at that pattern, because we all do things here and there, but what is that repeated pattern? We can start learning so much more about what's going on behind the scenes. What's behind the meltdown or the snack attack? Life is patterns, and we don't see them until we get curious. We stand back just a wee bit from the chaos and we say, what's really going on here? What are the patterns? What's behind this? And I will offer, through my view of emotions being really the key, what are the emotions that are operating here? Why this works. So, behaviors are driven by emotions, and patterns of emotions tell us so much more about why we eat the way that we do than any individual food choice. I'm going to use the example of finding candy wrappers underneath the bed. Yep. How many of us know that? If we just focus on the candy, we don't understand why they're there in the first place. Why is it that our children are sneaking the candy? What is the context? Why are they eating it? Why is it there? Why is it that we don't know about it until we're cleaning it out? When we look at the bigger pattern, we can actually collect so many more clues to make meaningful change instead of just throwing down the hammer again and saying, no more candy in the room. Because, like, we've all done that and it still comes back. This is how we actually understand why it keeps coming back. So, with detecting patterns, Lindsay was sharing about how looking at the patterns and shifting focus from where she came in with the pattern of thinking that the concern was all about her child's weight and noticing that it wasn't actually her child's concern. It was actually Lindsay's concerns, her own struggles and insecurities about her child's weight. And so when she was able to see, hey, my child actually isn't phased here, it's my own concerns, she was able to shift that focus to what she needed to be able to create healthy relationships with food and body, starting with her, Lindsay, the mom. And then step number 3. And remember, these are things you can start doing right away today. So, number 1, pause, exhale. You've already done it with me. You've already been practicing. Number 2, just looking at those patterns. What's going on here? Get curious about the patterns. And then number 3, let's explore a little bit more about emotions. So, whether we are talking about toddlers, adult partners, ourselves, oh, teenagers, we hate being told what to do. In fact, the more you push, the more pushback that you receive. Tell a child to eat broccoli and they'll say no. Tell me I have to go exercise for an hour every day, even me telling myself that I have to go and do that. And my inner 4-year-old just comes out and says, no, you are not the boss of me. Yeah, that's normal. We've been pushing for so long, but what we're really missing is connection. And so that's where we bring in so much of the conversation about emotions. What's really going on here? How can we create connection with our children to be able to understand why they do what they do? And how is it that we can invite them to do what we want them to do? Let's be honest. We can't have that 4-year-old going, you aren't the boss of me. We can't have them running the show because we know that they're going to be eating all the candy in the house and watching a whole lot of Bluey and scrolling and staying up. And, no, they're not in charge. But how can we create that connection to be able to know, all right, we are on the right path here? Now, the problem with emotions is that we haven't had that experience or that practice, like we were talking about before. We need practice in order to feel more comfortable. And feelings are not problems, they are simply messages. They help us know what's needed in the moment. And so we work a lot in Family and Focus around developing a language around emotions because it's really the greatest opportunity to be able to understand what it is that we're feeling, why it is that we're feeling it. And the magic in this is that naming what it is that we're feeling actually helps diffuse the mystery of what it is that we're feeling. Why do we feel the way that we do? When I can say, this is exhaustion. Oh, hold on a minute. You know what? Going to the pantry and grabbing tortilla chips does not fix exhaustion. Just by naming it, I can start taking that moment to see, you know what? This is not actually what I need right now. Exhaustion, I need a nap. I need to shut my eyes. I need some quiet for a few minutes. And so by slowing down and naming what it is that we're experiencing and feeling, it opens up new doors to be able to understand why we do what we do and also to change it. To change it. And at Family and Focus, we talk openly about emotions. We play with them, not poking fun, but exploring in ways to experiment, become more familiar with them, because familiarity, it makes us more comfortable, and comfort and practice build confidence. And so that's really the heart of what's going on here, where we get to truly feel emotions and get to see what they have to tell us. Oh my goodness. Because that's feeling what's going on underneath the surface. And it's funny, we want everybody else to do this. Like, just go feel your emotions. Get in touch with yourself, man. Like, why don't you go feel? Are you hungry? Like, what's going on here? We want our kids to eat from hunger and not from emotions. We want them to stop yelling and just say what's wrong. We want our partner to understand, yeah, why we're stressed. Um, without us having to blow up. And it's funny how often we want this to happen with this emotional awareness, but it starts with us. We have to do it first. It's not about fixing emotions, it's about noticing and hearing what they are telling us, learning and healing. What we do, okay, what we do ripples throughout the entire family so that we can come in with connection and not with that wrecking ball. And so Steph is a mom that I've worked with in Family and Focus, and she was sharing about how everything's been going really good. And her son, she found, is always listening in the background. And he told her one day, I love Wendy. She's making you a better mom. Now, that ripple is because we have worked together adult to adult. I have never met her son. I have never spoken with him once, but he is experiencing the changes that are happening in the home through Steph. Parents have a powerful opportunity to change the emotional temperature. You are a thermostat. You are not a thermometer. You are a thermostat. You can change the temperature in your home. And parents are really leading the change. Now, Candace shared this experience where she came to also an Emotions Matter series. And she was like, I've always known that there's different emotions that are going on behind the behavior, but actually sitting and feeling it, whoa, this was really new. And so she noticed how I've always wanted, to tell my kids that they need to feel their feelings. They need to feel their hunger, not feed it. And I didn't really get the whole picture about, the work that I said that I was doing with parents. She said, but now I get it because through the work that we were doing together, where I was helping introduce her to emotions and processing and feeling, she said, now I get it. Instead of just telling my child to go out and have a growth mindset and learn how to feel it, I learned to feel it first. I am learning. So, the skills you need to understand and change your children's habits. It's not about going in and changing everything. It's actually about first being willing to slow down, willing to get curious, ask and observe, checking that judgment, and the willingness to feel emotions. Not just tell everybody to feel theirs, but for you to start with your own, including discomfort, uncertainty, worry, frustration, exhaustion. Oh, we get to feel the whole color of the rainbows of emotions. The willingness to let them, our children, feel and express their emotions, and it may often be quite loud. And yet, the willingness to be the one to change first. This is the power. This is what's so very different because we've been raised in this society by adults who didn't have the time, the tools, the capacity to understand how change actually happens. Change happens together. So instead, they tried to fix us. And we try to fix, there's that the shame really comes up because so often when others are trying to fix us, it feels like there's something wrong with me. I am broken. Those are the words of shame. And so we're trying to do something different. And what's different is we don't need the prescriptions or therapy or labs. We need change. And it starts with us. And so if you notice, I'm a pediatrician, I'm saying, hey, this is what I've learned from the traditional medical model, and now I'm doing different. And so this new model, my private practice with Family in Focus, is a coaching model. And it's about connecting with parent to parent and creating that change throughout the entire family so that you will have more calm, more peace, more connection, better relationships with food, body, and each other. I think of it as social emotional skill building for the whole family because when we have emotionally regulated parents, we can help our kids learn how to have emotional regulation as well. And also model the skills and the behaviors, the regulation that we want our kids to have so that we'll have shame-free dining rooms, no more food fights, and all without adding more stress to your plate. And so this is where I just, you know, introduce you to Family in Focus. It's this easy. You ready to work together? All you have to do is book a call. It's that easy. So often we're thinking that we need to go through all the different referrals and the waiting game and, all the paperwork. No, you do not. You do not. And so I put that into the chat box as well, just to make it easy. What you'll find with working together in Family in Focus is, again, social emotional skill building, stress relief. It's about strategy, it's about mindset, it's about connection and community to help your family grow stronger relationships with food, body, and each other so you're healthier from the inside out. And so, really focusing on simplicity. We don't have all these other bells and whistles and hoops for you to jump through. No lines, no waiting game. I firmly believe, and I have learned this through all of my military and medical experiences, I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of being told to be in a queue, on hold, in a line, whatever it is. No, you get the VIP treatment here, okay? And also tailoring everything, okay? Hearing what it is that's going on in your life and tailoring the support for your unique family and life. Again, none of the authorizations schedule. You get direct access to my schedule to be able to book what works for you. And every session is a step forward. Again, coming back to where what you're going to get is that regulation, increasing emotional intelligence. We see how important that is in so many different areas of our lives, as well as being calm and present, more confident in your own eating habits and body image so that you can share that, invite that, and model it with your children. And also knowing that you are creating those healthy relationships for yourself. And again, modeling that for your children. Personalized support, the individual sessions are all with me. Any subject goes. This is not all about food. This is not all about portions. This is not all about weight. You will see how the tools that I teach, the tools that we use, can be applied to so many different areas in your life. And so any subject goes. You'll see what that means. We take it one step at a time. So you're not committing for a long term obligation. I keep on telling my husband he got in at the right time because I don't do long-term commitments anymore. Mind you, we've been married for, what is it now, 26 years. So he got in good. But now I'm like, no, let's make sure it works for you one step at a time. And again, availability, whatever works for you. I just took a screenshot the other day about my schedule, and you'll see that it's across the week. So different times, all days of the week are represented, and so you can check out my availability there. And then again, just highlighting what's inside with emotionally smart strategies, no diets, no shame. This is not weight management masking as support, and it's not diets hiding there in the edges. It's really connecting to what is effective evidence-based support to create change in your family. Now, I often hear from families, and they're like, "Yeah, that's awesome. I just want you. I just want to hire you to tell my kid what to eat." And I will be very honest with you. Me telling your child how to eat is no different than everyone else, including you, telling them what to do. Tell a kid what to do, and they'll tell you where to go. Remember that. Works for all of us, that push and the push back. And so, what we're really doing is working on creating connection, not intervention types of strategies. And so, a lot of times, parents will have questions. And one of the big ones is my partner is really the one who needs to work with you. Another one is about, what about my other relationships? And so whether it's relationships with my children, relationships with work, because we were talking about relationships with food and body and each other. And so what you will find is that the other question, is this only about weight? The work that we do together, the tools that you will learn with Family and Focus help in many different areas. So Steph again said, I came in thinking that this was all about weight. But really, what I found is the biggest impact is about burnout. And she's like, now I realize that the burnout that I came in with at the beginning of my time with Family and Focus has been the biggest part that's really changed, even though I totally thought it was all about weight. Going back to the question about family members, so I will work with and I will coach those who are willing. You can't make somebody who is unwilling come in and have these conversations. And so if they are willing, absolutely, I can work with co-parents. I can work with grandparents. I can work with whomever is interested in having these conversations. And I always start off, so going back to the question about children, I always start off working with the parents first. We will discuss if and when it is appropriate to bring in the adolescent. So there's a little bit more nuance with that. But everything is all connected: food, body, self, family, work, all the relationships. And stress, burnout, and health don't exist in silos. And so that's why you will see that it's all connected and different areas will improve over time that you're like, how did that happen? You belong here just as you are. Of course, this program includes access to me. You're booking direct. direct times with me. And so I'm going to just highlight here, if you have any other questions, please feel free. You can always email me. You can always feel free to reply to any email that you've received from me. And there is the call, and it's also in the chat box again. And I'm going to say thank you so very much to those on the replay. It's been a pleasure. I will make sure that the links are on the replay page, and I look forward to talking with